Hey friends, welcome to the Equipping Podcast from Citylight Church in Omaha. Our goal is to help you grow in wisdom and love for God and neighbor. And we hope this episode encourages you in your walk with God. So Jared, give us the headline. What is this podcast about?
Why are we? You set it up earlier.
Yeah,
the question is like, Jared,
why do this? Why do this? This
why
is
are we talking?
The line from Ocean's 11. Why do this?
Right. Why are we talking about Star Wars today? Okay. Well, here's why. There's a couple reasons, but here's one reason why. So you and I are in all these podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
and if you've seen Inside Out, the little monsters inside the person's brain that
Monsters?
They're monsters.
Yeah.
One of them's like
They're so cute.
rage monster,
most of them,
and one of them's a joy monster, and
the anxiety.
they're like Muppet. They're like emotional Muppets.
Yes.
Anyway, in that,
where are we going with this?
in that, she has these core memories.
Yeah. Okay.
And they kind of form everything else that she does. They're going to form her. They're going to be a part of
these little glass balls that are memories, but some are the core.
Yeah, they're going to be a part of her everything that she does. Her relationships in the future, the way she filters her good and bad, and everything else.
Yeah.
So Star Wars for me is that it's a core experience. So
yeah. And we sometimes talk about stories we live by, right?
Right. Exactly.
So,
in fact, that's one of the themes of this whole podcast, right?
Yeah.
Is like stories we live by.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I walked around when I was a child wearing one glove in the winter because I wanted to be like Luke Skywalker with his robot hand, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't need the other hand.
Yeah.
So it's fine if it froze to death. If I
we needed the other hand
from
in
frostbite.
Duluth, Minnesota.
Yeah. It was pretty cold here too. It was irresponsible. I definitely got frostbite. So Star Wars is like a core memory for me. So it enters into a lot of the way I think about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's other guys in the Citylight men's Bible study certainly because we talk about the illustrations, and sometimes the simplest, best way to understand things is to map them onto a very clear, sometimes even simplistic story.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, Star Wars is the ultimate of those. It is. I mean, George Lucas was very intentional with the original Star Wars to map it onto Joseph Campbell's myth cycle or story cycle in a very such an obviously intentional way that you can literally, plot by plot, beat by beat, walk your way through. So much so that, spoiler alert, I guess, anyone who didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father should have, because in the story cycle, that part of the story is called confronting the father. Right? This is literally, and so it can be very helpful for us to map our stories onto a very simple diagram. We do use that a lot in our Christian story conversation, talking about sort of the kickoff point, or the conflict and the resolution, the crisis, and the denouement, all these different things.
The story arc, right?
Yeah, the story arc, right. But Joseph Campbell makes an argument that there's a fundamental myth cycle that
and the book title is a Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Hero with a Thousand Faces, right. Makes the point that there's a fundamental myth cycle that is sort of endemic to humanity. It is
maybe go through that with us
fundamental.
Real quick. Yeah, so
it's very simple, and it's a circle. So this is I've always been an advocate of looking at stories as a circle, not as the sort of up and down wave that we always look at. And the wave makes
mountain,
a lot of
right.
Yeah, the wave makes a lot of sense. There's a reason for it. I'm not disputing it, but the circle, Joseph Campbell's story circle, is this very, very simple. First and foremost, you introduce the main character. That's who I am. And then you move into this hero's call. The hero is called to do something great. Usually it's accompanied with a refusal. They refuse the call. I can't do that. Luke Skywalker says, I can't go with that. I have to help my parents, my uncle and aunt with the farm.
Yep.
Something happens that forces them through, or that it reinforces the call, and they end up sort of stepping over the threshold into a new world. This is the whole bottom half of the story circle. And most of what we think of as the adventure takes place in this new world. For Harry Potter, it's going into the wizarding school.
Yep.
Right? So you step over the threshold, and you meet some friends, and you go through some trials that are going to form you into something that can take on a challenge. inevitably, Joseph Campbell calls the bottom point of the circle meeting the goddess, but it doesn't have to be a female character. It often is. Not to be crass, but love scenes in movies often take place at the bottom point of this story. There's a, if the action hero and the girl are going to kiss, it's going to be here or at the very end, or both.
So that transition again in the first Star Wars is the death of his parents.
Right. The death of his parents is this entry point. It moves downward into him meeting friends. You meet Chewbacca, you meet Han Solo, you meet, you get more involved with the mentor character. And then ultimately he meets Princess Leia. This would be meeting the goddess. This transforms his simple call into a much more focused, now you need to save someone. Sure. This is an important character. This is what matters. His vague notions of a rebellion that needs to fight against the Empire gets distilled down into a very purpose-driven, focused person who he cares about. So the rest of the story then from that point on is a march up to what Joseph Campbell calls confronting the father, which is where you have to fight back against the machine that has kept you the way it is. And in this case, literally, he has to, first Obi-Wan does, but then later on in the same first movie, he fights against Darth Vader in a ship-to-ship battle. But part of confronting the machine is also the Death Star itself, and so there's a sort of a double story going on there where he's confronting everything that has held that stands in the way of and says you cannot achieve your goals. The young man who is the hero, who is growing and who is coming into his power, is being opposed by something direct that stands there and says, no, you can't. This is where you stop. And he has to drive through the wall. He has to destroy the Death Star. He has to fight Darth Vader. And if the hero succeeds, then he brings home the elixir of life to the village, is the picture that Joseph Campbell portrays. Or in this case, he returns home in his X-Wing and delivers the message that we're not all going to die. The rebellion can continue, and many, many more movies can be made, and merchandise can be sold. Eventually Ewoks and Gungans and all the other things that we hate can be made into fluffy toys.
So maybe before we jump into, because I'd love to continue to talk about the stories. So far we've told the story just about the first one, and the first one's called A New Hope.
A New Hope. Well, it was originally just called Star Wars. He changed it into A New Hope when he started planning. When he started doing more.
Trilogy. Yeah. So, but give me an idea. Like, was the first movie it was just a standalone, this is what Star Wars is, but now we've got TV series, we've got tons of books, we've got a story that's just
I was going to try and state how many movies there are, but I'm actually not even 100% sure how many movies there are. There are definitely 9 in the core set. Yeah. And then there are, I want to say 3 or 4 other side movies now. Spin-off movies. Yeah. And we're not counting TV movies like the Ewok Adventures that came out in the 80s, although I would count those. And then, there were tons of books that came out before the most recent stuff with Rey and all them. And then all those books were invalidated. They basically said, so Star Wars nerds, we talk about
but it's important to say the books were written after the movies.
They were written after the movies. Right. Star Wars nerds, biblical canon is this idea that there's a closed set amount of books. Star Wars nerds have canon.
They have a canon.
Yeah. And they intentionally, Disney, when it bought Star Wars, decanonized the books. Literally, they actually said that in their tweet. They decanonized the books. And so all the stuff that had been done up until that point, except for
we're in charge, not you.
Yes, except for the 6 movies that had come out, the Clone Wars cartoons, and a couple of video games. They said everything else has been decanonized. Did not happen. And so then they continued forward. And so we take the material very seriously. There's been a bunch of TV series on streaming services and on Disney and on Cartoon Network and everything else. Video games, tons of video games, tons of books, tons of comic books. So this has become, a franchise. It actually is kind of the original great franchise empire, right? Marvel and all that has done that since then, but Star Wars is like the OG. Well, in Spaceballs, which is a parody of Star Wars, right?
Still never seen it.
What?
Podcast episode on Spaceballs.
Oh my goodness!
No, wait. Actually, I think I have seen Spaceballs.
If you don't remember, we gotta watch it.
It's the other one. It's the other one that you talk about.
Blazing Saddles?
No. Well, whatever. Just let it go. We'll talk about it after.
Sorry. All right.
I'm pretty sure I've seen
in
Spaceballs, but I don't remember. You're right.
Yogurt, the Yoda character, says, he says, Spaceballs the movie, Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs whatever. And he goes, merchandising. Like, his whole point is that is the point of all of this, right? And of course, he's being very on the nose there, but Spaceballs the sequel, Spaceballs the cereal. Anyway, it's a very funny movie, but so it launches the genius of George Lucas, actually, probably more than anything, is the recognition of this as a merchandising opportunity. Right. Yeah. It's like how much this could really sell, and he could spin it off into everything.
Yeah.
So that was probably his genius. In fact, the original.
Yeah. I mean, so in that sense, it's a cultural landmark because it really did change film.
It did. And it filled 1 million landfills. The other thing is, like, the original film, was kind of a disaster. He did not make a great movie. The people he knew who were like his drinking buddies and his wife's drinking buddies, this like little private game group of them, are now all legends in the film industry, every single one of them. And they basically came together, watched his original shot, and said, "Oh my gosh, you're going to ruin your reputation if you put this out." And they fixed the movie. They re-edited what he had made and turned it into what it is today. So
interesting.
So George Lucas may have been inspired by the hero's journey, but
it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's relatively low budget too.
Yeah,
right?
relatively,
because they're doing a lot of stuff in like miniature. Pretty cheaply.
The Star Wars, the original Death Star Rome was made out of deconstructed and reconstructed battleship model parts. I mean, it's all these tons and tons of very, very cheap, very, very low budget, and it was very much high budget for him, low budget comparatively now. And it was a wager of his career, and so his friends kind of came together and saved the movie. Which is that's a fun story in its own right, right? It's like they were like, this is going to be a disaster. His wife actually is probably
where were those friends in some of the later movies?
Divorced and left. Broken Hollywood relationships. His friends. His wife specifically probably is the most notable. Like, if you were to think of like, why does this follow the story circle so well? It's his wife who made that whole thing work. But anyway, so one of the reasons I love Star Wars is because I think it does a really and I maybe potato or chicken and egg. I don't know which is the first here, whether I love the story circle or I love Star Wars because I love the other one. But I think both of them, if you want to get theological, I think both of them do a really, really good job illustrating. If I was to make one of my arguments for God, and it's sort of like the argument of God for morality, but it's not quite the argument of God for morality, but it would be something like, it would be the argument from story. It's that we have, we talk about the God-shaped hole in our heart. We have a gospel-shaped story hole in our heart. Like the elements that are so important to us of the gospel, and the reason that they choke us up when they do, and the reason why they resonate with us so well, is because God, I believe, I think that Joseph Campbell was observing and critiquing and talking about something that he didn't understand. And he was saying that the human being, the human condition, has in it a need for an underdog to rise, and it has an understanding that we need to be that at some point we need to step over the threshold and be ushered and guided along until ultimately we need to make a decision. And that decision is important and will put us into conflict with our old life, with the things that were holding us back. And that decision ultimately relies on finding someone else, something else that can save us and that will totally transform us. And then, actually following the story circle, it will cause us to go back to where we came from and save our original where we came from. It'll cause us to go home, but not as we were. But like in Lord of the Rings, when they return to the Shire, they return changed, right? Able now to save the Shire. Whereas they weren't before. They couldn't have saved the Shire before. So I actually do believe that Star Wars is just the purest and simplest, easy illustration. I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean follows the exact. In fact, Pirates of the Caribbean is the same story as Star Wars. Like, it's the Millennium Falcon is the Black Pearl. Later on, when they fight the Death Star, there's a Kraken. I mean, there's literally every beat for beat. Pirates of the Caribbean is Star Wars. So
Well,
there's other stories.
so tell me this. I mean, like when you're talking about this God-shaped hole. I mean, there was a story between C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, because Lewis was converted to deism before he actually became a Christian, and the big hang up for him in becoming a Christian was that he's like, this story in the New Testament, I've seen the story before. Like, it's the same pattern as all these other stories, and basically
didn't realize that this is the story that the world had been prepped for.
Yeah, so Tolkien's point was, even though these stories that came before the gospel sort of look like the gospel, it's because this is the story that keeps running over and over again through history, and I think the phrase was that myth became fact.
Yeah.
Like that Jesus lived this actually in a way that was real and offered salvation to everyone.
Right. One way to look at it is to say that the story of Jesus is so powerful that it echoes both forward and backward through eternity, right? But another way to look at it is to say Jesus was a key, and so all of creation, including our hearts, was made in a lock-shaped,
sure.
And so the story that Jesus was all, it's the same thing. I think we had it in our Christian story class. Somebody brought it up. Like, one of the questions is like, why so much blood? Why are all the sacrifices? Why is the sacrificial system just coated in blood? The altars must have just been horrendous to look at after years and years of service, right?
Yep.
I mean, even with cleaning, which it's never clear what kind of cleaning they would have had. It's just it's layers and layers and layers and layers of blood. I lived on a farm, and we used to butcher chickens, and there are tools and places where you work that are never the same. This is not a place you will play, because it is a place where hundreds of animals have been butchered, right? In the same sense, the altar cannot, the priest cannot not smell like blood, right?
Yep.
And decay. And so the question isn't, like, the question could be why all the blood, but it was because God was preparing them to see with crystal clear eyes that when Jesus shed his blood for us, it matters. All this blood was never enough, but this blood is now, right?
Yeah.
And so, and in the same way, I think the story was seeded, if you want to put it that way. Sometimes they talk about, in alien and sci-fi movies, we love this idea of humanity being seeded there by aliens or something. The story was seeded in our hearts so that when Jesus arrived, it clicks. We go, yes, this is the good story.
How closely then does Joseph Campbell's story arc correspond to the gospel? Yeah.
100%. So, like, I kind of touched on it a minute ago, but you could talk about it from Jesus' perspective, but again, the hero in Joseph's stories, we call him the hero cycle or whatever. Yeah. The hero is
sometimes
us.
Called the hero's journey.
Yeah. Right? The hero is us, though. Not. And I'm not saying I'm the hero of the gospel story. Jesus absolutely is, but the myth cycle is a personal, self-centric cycle, and
it's a sort of journey.
It's a journey that we're supposed to go on, and we are called. Right? We're called into another world. We're called from this world. So the top of the hero cycle, that there's you could draw it into quadrants, and there's all these neat things you can do. It's a very, very complicated thing. But if it's a circle, the top of the hero cycle is all in our world, in the old world. The bottom of it is all in this other world. It's all wherever that might be. Again, the wizarding school of Harry Potter or whatever. In our case, the top of it is the world, and the bottom of it is the journey toward is encountering and interacting with Christ ultimately in judgment and everything else. But from our fallen world, from our place of materialism and naturalism and everything else, we are called to hear the voice of God. That's the hero's call, and every one of us deny it. Deny the call, right? Now, until we maybe hopefully step over the threshold into the world and start looking forward and saying, okay, and it's Pilgrim's Progress. We begin the journey and we walk forward. At that point, we descend into a new world that has a different pull on us. In Star Wars, Luke begins this journey through space where he's been on a farm his whole life. And he learns that he can shoot with lasers and fight with lightsabers, and that there's a thing called the Force, and that the rebellion is a real thing, and all this stuff. in our life, we learn that spiritual powers are real, that there is evil, and that the things that feel wrong are wrong, and the things that feel right are right, and that our desperate call for justice and joy and happiness, these are reasonable things. That's the world we're being called into. And so we would begin, if I was Orthodox or Catholic, this would begin our catechismal journey as we would start learning about our faith and learning and acquiring tools and studying the Bible and things like this, being with friends who are walking with us. But we would also start running into real hardship at this point.
So you got call to adventure. I'm just looking at this diagram.
The circle,
here. Meeting a mentor, crossing a threshold.
Yeah, crossing a threshold.
Trials and failure, growth and new skills.
And this is in like Luke's story, this is the beginning of Han Solo, Chewbacca, all them. Yep. For the new Christian, though, this is also when the rubber starts hitting the road. This is when you start running into real problems. You start getting into maybe some service in your church, but you also start seeing that not everything is just ironed out because I said a prayer, right?
Yeah. The interesting thing, though, is that at the bottom of this, you have death and rebirth, which typically we would think of that as crossing the threshold, perhaps.
Right. Maybe.
But I think that there's maybe even a deeper sense, and we've talked about what is the Critical Journey book too.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, in some ways, it follows
the
circle, and when it gets to the bottom, it's basically the inward journey or going through the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do feel like there's a sense in which Christian conversion obviously is coming to know God and to learn about him and all of this, and in a sense that's new birth. The Spirit is in us, but there is a sort of deepening in discipleship where you begin to realize the depth of the enemy, which is in you, the power of sin, and you begin to have this approach to God's which can say, I actually have to give up myself. Like I have to die to self.
And that is in Campbell's illustration, that is the meeting of the goddess. That is when the abstract becomes real. And so you might argue that somebody and begins their Christian journey not really knowing what all they're buying into, but then there becomes a point where they're like, oh, I have to give up everything for this, but it's worth it, right? Yep. So that would be in the circle that we called meeting the goddess, right? Yep. Which then sets into motion the final confrontation, and that is the wall in the critical journey. Yep. And that is the real Jesus talking to the rich young ruler, what must I do to, and he says, well, you're gonna have to sell everything to follow me. That's where he hits his wall. He's met the goddess or God, he's met Jesus, but he has to confront the things holding him back at this point, his father. And the rich young ruler doesn't. The rich young ruler goes back. Right. And so we're then called to continue, keep choosing Jesus, depend more, endure and rely on and overcome by the power of the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, right? And ultimately we emerge on the other side able to what? Go home. And go back to a changed world
with gifts,
the
to
same
bring back.
world with gifts to bring back. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's why I love Star Wars. It just brings that into crystal clear focus.
Okay, so talk to me about this, because I know that there's a lot of people that talk about, look, Star Wars is just loaded with Eastern religions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So tell me about that.
Well, first off, George Lucas, huge. He was like a huge like a Buddhist 101. Like I'm not saying he ever went deeper than that. I don't think he ever did. I don't know. I don't want to criticize him. I don't know. But I think
a strong advocate of a very shallow
strong advocate of a very shallow understanding of Buddhism. That's right. That's right. Because he's a product of a Christian civilization, just like J.K. Rowling is a product of a Christian civilization. So even while they want to create this other world, and maybe even with an understanding of a different religion in their mind, they're doing the whole thing with that God-shaped hole.
Rowling does seem to be a little bit more intentional about it.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah.
She's from a more explicitly Christian tradition, right?
Yeah, I think so. But even to the extent where something she's doing is playing off of or scaring somebody with words like witchcraft and everything else, it's like, yeah, but I mean, it's pretty clear though, right?
Yeah, we'll have to have
we'll have to really
do
dig
a Harry Potter
sometime.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. he loved the idea of Buddhism being the sort. It's the same thing as Alcoholics Anonymous. They love the idea of it being this sort of all access, like spirituality without religion. How can I have a depersonalized thing that's not gonna? It doesn't confront me and make me. I would argue that George Lucas met the goddess and walked away, right? He and then went back and told stories about it the rest of his life. But he didn't. He's not pushing through. At least metaphorically here, he's not pushing through into the actual personality of the God that he's seeking. But yeah, Star Wars has tons of Eastern mysticism built into it. It also has like a weird night thing going on. And basically every time it needs any kind of political or institutional structure, it just borrows randomly from some other thing. I mean, the Jabba the Hutt literally speaks Quechuan Indian. Like that's what he speaks. So it's like, and actually that's the case with almost all of the languages in Star Wars. They're all real language. They're all very, very closely modeled off of real languages.
Interesting.
One of them is clearly Japanese in the first movie in episode 1, and another one is clearly Spanish in episode 2. But yeah, Quechua. It was funny because the Quechuan Indians like that's just what Jabba the Hutt speaks. Like,
interesting.
Yeah. So I went to Bolivia and met Quechuan Indians.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they all speak Jabba the Hutt languages. Jabba the Hutt's language. So
you didn't repeat any of Jabba the Hutt's lines?
No, because I think almost everything he was saying was swear words.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Amazing.
Swearing in Quechuan. Anyway, but the other thing is Star Wars is shallow. I'll just admit that.
Yeah.
Star Wars is shallow. Well. It's simplistic. It's good. It's simple good, simple evil, simple heroes who get. That's actually
a lot of stories.
A lot is, but it's not. That's actually part of the betrayal of like some of the later movies. Is that they didn't get that Star Wars' black and white simplicity, morality is actually part of the draw. And so when they take characters and say, well, actually, did you know that this person's actually been bad the whole time? Well, they were actually good though. It's like, no, you're missing the point.
That's to some extent too, that's kind of a tendency. I mean, we could talk about Lord of the Rings too, but like
deconstructing the stuff.
Aragorn's character in Lord of the Rings was completely different in the movies than in the book.
Yeah. Well, and it's even funny because I'm listening to Frankenstein right now, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and now with Frankenstein and Dracula, I've read a couple other the sort of classic, what you might call 1800 like classic monster literature. The thing that is, set aside the characters of these things, I feel like the modern take on all of these is an attack on it's like looking at it's chronological snobbery, but it's a different kind of chronological snobbery than what C.S. Lewis is talking. It's actually saying all those old people and all those old sensibilities and all those old morals. Nobody actually believed.
Nobody was actually sincere.
Good. Yeah, there was no goodness. There was no virtue. There was no whatever. And so, for instance,
it's an attempt to sort of not be so naive.
Exactly. To not be made fun of.
We're better now because we're not as naive as they were.
We would rather all be jaded jerks than any one of us be taken as a rube, right? And so the for instance, in Frankenstein, every version of Frankenstein that you'll see in the movies, all of them portray Dr. Frankenstein as the real monster, as a crazy person. At best, he is somewhat sympathetic, but he's always insane. He's always off his rocker going and in the book, he does go too far. He does get obsessed with creating this monster. But he's a very nice guy in the book. He's a good man. His father, in almost all of them, the recent ones certainly, his father is this titan jerk who he's reacting out of a hatred of his father to almost all of this. His father's super nice. At one point, though, in the chapter I just read, it said, my father could never be called anything other than amicable, and to call him a tyrant is the worst possible affront to him, right? He comes from a good family full of good people who love each other. And guess what? The real monster in Frankenstein is the monster. He's the one who kills a child for no reason. Right.
We are so aware of power dynamics in the world that basically the lens is completely cynical.
And Star Wars, at least the original Star Wars, doesn't do that. Star Wars, if anything, says that the bad guy can be redeemed in the end. That's a message in Star Wars. But overall, the Star Wars has a simplicity of its story that I actually really like, and I think it's worth. It's kind of like when I read through Percival's Knight's Tale, like part of it is the story just unabashedly tells you he's a good guy. How do you know he's a good guy? Because he's trying to do good things. He's trying to help people. He's trying to whatever, and so. Anything that comes up later where you're like, well, that didn't seem like a very good guy thing to do. You need to understand that the story thinks he's a good guy. Therefore, we need to ask the question, well, how is he going to recover from this? Or how is he whatever? Yep. But he is not a bad guy. The story has told us he's a good guy. So, so read him like a good guy, right? Yeah. And people do this. There's this hilarious, it's old at this point, but there was this like the Empire, I think it was called The Empire Was Right. There's a thread on the internet. It's like a meme or something that the Empire was right. Yeah. And it's like this idea that like Luke Skywalker killed 340,000 people when he destroyed the Death Star, because that's how many staff there was, right? And most of them were just janitors and secretaries and email jobs, right?
And they were just trying to bring stability to the
stability, or even just feed their families, right? And there's just this jadedness that makes it impossible for us to, and we struggle with that in the real world. Like, can I buy Nikes? Right. I don't know. Where were they made? And by who? And where did the materials come from? Were they was it child labor, and did it profit a warlord, and did it profit a communist or a capitalist or whatever, right? Yeah. And there's a simplicity in these stories that says it's okay to pursue goodness. Yeah. It's okay to pursue beauty. Yeah. And it's okay to take a lightsaber on your way to pursue, he waits, he goes through the fray.
Well, and this is the power of these old stories, is that, I mean, like, I think we see this even, I mean, this is rather innocuous, but like an ogre in an old fashioned sort of fairy tale was bad. Right. So like you had your clear bad characters, your clear good characters. The wolf is going to be bad. The ogre is going to be bad. The witch is going to be bad. Yes. And in modern stories, there's a conscious attempt to flip that, a conscious attempt to say, well, we're not quite sure whoever is good or bad. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
To undermine that, make us question all of it and everything else. And and I even understand the value. Part of it's like the desire to not other every something. Yeah, sure. Say that because very simplistic black and white good and bad narratives have been used to say the Japanese were bad during World War II, or or whatever. They're a different type of people.
Or African Americans. I mean, in my hometown Duluth, there was a lynching of 2 African Americans.
Right. And so you tell these stories that are, they can be simplistic and be abused to tell the story that says this type of person isn't even a person, and therefore it's like destroying an animal or something. Yep. But what you lose with that is the ability to actively pursue anything as good or bad, as to say to you lose justice in your pursuit of justice. You lose beauty in your pursuit of beauty, right?
And there's a sort of post naivety which has struggles to find sincerity ever. Right. Yeah.
And so you have this moment, and you don't even have it in the later Star Wars movies. Like in the later in episode 8, when Rey hands Luke his own lightsaber, his father's lightsaber, he shrugs and laughs and snorts and kind of throws it backwards over. So you have that self-aware sort of everything is funny, nothing is real anymore. Humor has already crept its way into the series. But there is a time when Mark Hamill was 17 or 18 years old filming Star Wars. And he runs in and he says, "I'm Luke Skywalker and I'm here to rescue you," right? Where there's earnestness in the movie. The movie is an earnest movie.
So we've got just a couple more minutes left, but I'm just curious. Like, give us a flyover of there's 9 core movies. Oh yeah. Which are the good ones?
Okay. If you're going to watch a lot of them, let me just put it this way. I'm not going to say all of them. Don't. Yeah. To be honest, I haven't seen them all.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen the last one.
I haven't seen this Mandalorian Grogu movie that is out right now.
Okay.
There's one in the theater.
I didn't know about that one.
I haven't seen it. I'm trying to think if I've seen
I'm talking about the 9. You've seen all the 9.
Yes, okay. I have, unfortunately. Actually, before I had seen 8 and 9, but especially 9, I would have said, other movies coming out being worse don't actually make something, like, you can't make my old stuff but worse.
Yeah, right.
But actually they can. You can
Yeah.
make the old stuff worse.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch the old stuff now, having seen the new stuff, it's actually worse, which is too bad. If you're going to watch them, obviously 4, 5, and 6, which is the middle. They're the original ones that came out in 1970 through.
So the
80s.
fourth movie was the first one ever made. That kicked off the whole thing.
That started the whole thing. It was just Star Wars originals called A New Hope.
And I have so many memories of watching 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
And the torture of the second movie, and you just got to almost start the third one right away. You know.
If you're gonna this is gonna sound this is heresy for me personally, because I saw episode 1 26 times in the theater. Okay, now part of it is at the Dollar Theater, and we just took our homework.
Wait, episode 1,
episode
meaning
1,
the fourth movie.
The fourth, it's when Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader's a little boy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I saw that 26 times in the theater. We'd go to we'd take our homework to the Dollar Theater, pay them $3, and just go and sit in the theater all day, and they just run it for us.
Keep running.
Yeah. So I mean, I was cheating a little bit, but still, I love that movie. It is objectively not a great movie. There's some good scenes in it. It's not a great movie. Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't like that movie.
Okay. If you're gonna
watch,
watch
Jar Jar Binks in that movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's in all 3 of the prequels. If you're gonna watch Star Wars, here's how I would watch it. I would watch episode 4, the original one.
Yep.
Then 5, and then if you must watch the prequels, I wouldn't bother with 1. There's no need to it. You can if you want to. Knock yourself out. But if you're gonna watch 4 and 5, then go back and watch 2 and 3, and then watch 6.
Okay.
Because
so tell me why. Yeah.
Because because 5, Empire Strikes Back, ends with Luke losing his hand, losing his hope, being beaten by his father, realizing that he cannot win, learning that he's his father, and that the Jedi and Obi-Wan specifically have lied to him, and that the rebels, despite their having destroyed a Death Star, cannot win.
Yeah.
So he is in the pit. He has lost everything.
Yeah, sure.
We know, if you've seen episode 2 and 3, you know that this is when Darth Vader turned. That he was in the pit, and he came back, and when he shows up again in episode 3, he shows up wearing black as a Sith, right?
Yep.
So, my
so,
point is,
so go back and watch that history.
if you watch all that and then start episode 6, and Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker shows up wearing black, force choking stuff, which is something only the Sith do.
Yeah.
He force chokes the bad guys. You think that Luke Skywalker has become a Sith. And so through the whole first 45 minutes of Return of the Jedi, he has entered, following the steps of his father, into oblivion. But then we realize that no, he throws off his cloak, he pulls out his own homemade green lightsaber. The music swells, and he becomes the hero that we actually wanted the whole time. So that dramatic turn is something that you could not have gotten back when these movies were first coming out, but you can now. So I would encourage someone to watch 4 and 5, then 2 and 3, then 6.
Okay. Okay.
And then whatever else.
And then whatever you want.
If you're enjoying it, knock yourself out.
Sure.
Keep going if you want.
Okay, so apart from the 9 core that are kind of the sequence, is there another movie that you think, you probably should watch that?
Rogue Squadron's fun.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Is it called Rogue Squadron? Rogue One, I guess
Rogue
it's
One.
called. Rogue One is fun.
I liked Rogue One too. And Rogue One is sort of that's before the number 4, right?
Yeah.
Is it? It's between 3 and 4.
Yeah. So Rogue One and Solo are both, their entire plot, everything about them is contrived. Both of them are contrived to fix plot holes. Right. Yeah. In Rogue One, there's a plaguing question that the nerds have been fighting with the whole time, which is why did they build in a plot device way to destroy the Death Star with one missile? Like why is there an exhaust port? That
Why is there an exhaust?
Why? Right. Sure. And the answer is Rogue One. Well, it was a sympathetic guy was building it, and he wanted it to be destroyed.
Why is there the shaft? And then how do they get the plans?
Right? And then in Solo, the movie Solo, there's this line, a throwaway line in Star Wars Episode 4, where Han Solo says that the Millennium Falcon is the ship that made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Well, parsecs are measures of distance, not time. But George Lucas didn't know that when he wrote the script.
Okay.
Right? He's thinking parsecs are like space seconds. It made it in 12 seconds. But that was nonsensical. So the whole movie explains how it's basically a trip around a black hole. and the Millennium Falcon can do it in less space, can essentially cut a corner near a black hole because it's so fast.
Sure. Yeah.
But this whole thing comes from that one throwaway line that's just George Lucas not knowing how space
Fantastic.
works.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been fun. So again, for those of you watching, you watch movie 4, 5, 2 and 3, and then 6. And you've got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, thanks for watching.
All right.